friends, it's Barbara Sue at Kowalski Mountain, and I'm here with Philip. And today we are going to do a year in review to see how far we came in 2022. So let's see what happened at Kowalski Mountain for the year. So what you got?
Well, I guess we started off pretty much with the sawmill. We had to plan that the end of last year. Received it in December. Ended up putting it together late winter.
March.
Yeah, late winter, early spring. It was still considered winter up there.
It's cold.
Got to mill a few boards off of that. Got to experience what it's like to basically print your own money. That was nice. Definitely a worthwhile purchase. I guess for this year, a little more this year than previous years, we've been doing a lot more prep for the future because we're that much closer. One of them being the sawmill. You know, sometimes you don't want to buy something too far in advance because technology will bypass you, and by the time you're ready to use it, your stuff's already outdated. So with that in mind, I wanted to wait till the last moment. Wait till I sold the house, had the money, we bought the sawmill.
The one thing about the sawmill that's added to our project is not only do we have to do a project, we also have to saw the wood, which is a little challenging because we have to let that wood dry. You were able to saw up some wood for the bathhouse, and we've had to let that dry. And we've also kind of learned that we need to pretty much have a lumber barn where we're constantly filling it with lumber so that we're ready when we need some 2x4s that we have wood in the barn to pull from.
So you've got to really backwards plan a lot. Like, I need X amount of boards, 2x4s, 2x6s, 4x4s to build this project. Okay, when do I need it by? So that means I got to cut the wood. And if I need it kiln drying or I can put it up wet, all those things come into play. So that has put a little bit of a challenge on the table too, because I don't want the boards getting warped.
And our time is limited on the farm, so
yeah, I can't wait to get up there full time.
It takes a lot of time to do the milling, and then we still need to work on the project. So it has complicated our building.
But again, you go back to, it's like printing our own money. Can cut it when we need it. We just have a little time constraint issue to work with and work through. We also had planned on solar package. With that, we needed to know what our means were going to require. So I studied and studied and studied, watched a lot of YouTube, purchased our solar package. It has not been put together. And what's nice is when we go to put it up, it'll be brand spanking new, and we'll have a fresh start with all the power that we need up there. And as far as the solar goes, what's funny is we've had a lot of doubts. Different people don't think that it's enough to power what our needs are going to be, but again, we are building from the ground up, so we create what our needs are. If your needs are small, it's very easy to meet that goal.
And we're used to living small because we live in an RV.
And that was the plan.
So we've learned to manage our power better. It's still a learning curve. We still blow breakers on occasion.
Well, sometimes it's just absent-minded things. Solar, we knew that we're going to set up our demand within those limitations. And by selling the house and now living in an RV, we start getting used to living with less, which is where we want to be, and that'll make things go a little bit further. And we're not skimping by. It's not like we go to the farm and we don't take showers every day. We take a shower every day.
Every day.
The one thing is we just don't do them right back to back because the hot water heater is only so big. No big deal.
One of the things about living off-grid that is a common misconception is people think that we're going to live primitively. And that's not our goal at all. We
I like
are
my
not
conveniences.
going to live primitively.
One of the other things on being conscious of is the water. So the decision that we had come to, in our area, well water doesn't smell very good. So to alleviate that issue, instead of having a truck come in and drill it, I did my research on where we could do it. That's fine, we could. Can't guarantee 100% that we're going to have water, but more than likely we would. But it's going to smell nasty. We're going to have to treat it. Not to say that we won't change this in the future.
Right.
However, if we do rain catch, then that just means we go in a different direction. We don't have to rely on all those things and more things to break, which means more drain on our electric. But with the water, we know what we use. That means you've got to plan on vessels to hold that amount of water and prepare for drought.
But you bought a real big tank this year.
So we bought several tanks.
Yep.
I guess a key note is don't keep all your apples or eggs in one basket. Or is it apples in one basket? Don't keep all your eggs in one basket. Spread things out. Because you have a leak, you lose one. Doesn't mean you lose all. So at least you lose a small fraction of it.
And we practice that now. We haul water to the farm now, and we always keep more than one cistern tank. So if we have a valve crack this winter and our entire tank drains out, we don't arrive up there with not have any water.
So I've had the RV in the same location for several years now, and I knew that we needed to put it in a different location. However, our infrastructure wasn't ready for that just yet. So our plan was to create a driveway. Well, the talk was create a driveway. I created the driveway and how I wanted it to go. I stayed with them. We worked it.
Now the driveway was super exciting of a project for us to do this year, because so many of the next steps that we needed to take in order for us to make this move next year weren't even possible before the driveway was put in.
Now we can access. It's kind of like putting a bridge to the other side. So, well, beginning of the year and the previous year, I knew generally where we wanted to have a driveway. We started planting fruit trees. You really need a backwards plan if you want to start producing that 3 or 4 years down the road. Those things are going to take a little time to get established. So, backwards plan that. We put trees in along the driveway all the way on up. We got the driveway in. We actually got the dozer to not only cut us a driveway, we laid rock immediately following, but they flattened out the RV pad for the new location. They also cleared a pad for the sawmill to go behind, which we needed to pull dirt from somewhere. So
that was actually placed where we are going to put up a permanent canopy for that, and eventually that canopy will be the cover for our vehicles to park under once the RV is no longer needed. And that was kind of a decision we played with. We were going to put the RV kind of between the barn and the house was the original location. We planned that so that the RV's septic can be tied right into the septic system of the house. But when we started talking about that canopy becoming a permanent structure, I didn't want a permanent structure blocking the view to the barn. So we re-looked at that and moved the RV canopy to a spot that was a little more conducive for permanent placement, that didn't block our view to anything we wanted.
I think the whole farm as a whole has been a little bit of a challenge to create a labor-friendly / live-friendly flow, meaning where we put things can't obstruct something else. So where to place the trees, where to put the driveway, and we jumped ahead. The pond, we had to do the pond early. It's going to take time to fill in. It's got to take time to settle. We need to see if it's holding water. We didn't have any rain before we dug it, and I'm happy with the size, although she doesn't feel it's big enough.
It's a little smaller.
We can raise fish in a pool, for that matter.
And it's also not as deep as I really wanted it to be.
I think, and we have room to grow. We could actually make it bigger if we wanted to. But to me, that was more than enough, because I want to be able to stock our pond, and I have plans for the water to be cycled out of that to go to the garden and be utilized that way. So that needed to be done. in advance so that it can have time to adjust. We worked on the bathhouse. That enabled us to do some things in there. So we were able to this year get the shower in. We got...
You raised it.
I raised it up. I'm going to raise it up even more because of being able to access the plumbing underneath. Reevaluate space to work. And when you start to put things together, if it's going to be difficult, it doesn't hurt to go a little bit higher. We got the floor in. We got things positioned where the toilet's going to go, where the fireplace or wood stove is going to go. The washer's in place. I've got the plumbing parts and things. I just need to run the plumbing and the sewage, and we're good to go. People can take showers and utilize the restroom.
And that'll take some strain off the RV, because currently the only bathroom we have on the property is the RV. And when we have 6, 7, 8 guests, that is a lot of people on one little tiny bathroom.
I mean, we planted grapes last year, but because we had the drought, the grass took over. We weren't able to get up as often as we were because we had other plans. Amazing, we got as much done as we did this year.
And so that kind of turned out well. When we built the vineyard, we ran out of time. We didn't actually have time to put in all of the posts and supporting structures that the grapes would grow on. And we discovered, well, for one, we lost our grapes. We think there might be some up there.
Yeah, grass took over. There's 2 that did well.
But we did decide we weren't thrilled with that location. We chose the location that was above the garden.
Useless space.
Because it's not a very useful hill, but we were really challenged watering that space. If you remember, Philip built the water tank for the back of the Ranger.
Yeah, she didn't realize this, but I almost rolled the Ranger.
No, he told me he did that.
Yes, she didn't until I tell her. But fill that 55-gallon drum up, and it's standing up at the back of the truck, and you go up a slight little incline. If you're perfectly horizontal with the hill, it wanted to lean and go.
I was a little worried that I was going to roll it too. So it was pretty scary on that hill with that water tank in the back. So we're going to move the vineyard. Our current plan is over kind of near the driveway in that natural
drainage
area.
That saddle right there, yeah.
It's from the runoff from the mountain.
Can't use the area anyway, so we might as well figure out how to put some kind of culvert rock in the middle to where we don't have to maintain it with the grass. And then we'll figure out how we can lay out the grapes.
Yeah, so that's kind of a plan for the future. We're going to have to relook at the grapes.
We messed with the bees this year. We put them up on the hill to get an idea of what we're going to be up against when doing our bees in Kentucky. So we put them up there. They did really well throughout. However, lack of water impacts everything. Everything. And they didn't produce the honey that we were happy with. So we ended up doing something that we normally don't do. And I don't feed my bees sugar down here in Florida because we just give them back their honey. So the bees up there, we did the sugar bricks. Which
that was a kind of a cool project. We made them in the freeze dryer.
And come to find out, the yellow jackets found a little crack and crevice. So I had to make some adjustments. Now the bees were doing okay. They were protecting their home. The yellow jackets were just going in and getting sugar as well. So I closed them up, put an extra box on them. I'm hoping they're doing well.
Yeah, we're a little worried.
Can't tell. Can't open them up.
They just had that Arctic blast up there in Kentucky, and they got a little bit of snow, which the snow is less of a concern. But we're hoping the bees survive the winter. We just canceled our trip. We were supposed to go up this month to check on them and feed them, and we weren't able to do that. So fingers crossed that the bees will survive this winter.
So one of the other things to try to get over to the other side, we needed to do a little modification of the culverts and cross the creek. So I put in a couple culverts, and you'll see some people, they use these cages of rocks and they use them for retaining walls and things of that nature. Well, went ahead and created my own little rock cage and wall, and it's been doing great, keeping the dirt back, keeping the pathway clear. But it's
not fully tested yet.
It's not.
We haven't gotten the rain.
Well, it's not finished. The intent is, if we have an overflow, the walls are higher than the actual road, it keeps it funneled. But by putting cinder blocks holes up all the way across, the water can then go flow right up and over the driveway, not wash out anything, and continue on its path. So
And we have tried this before.
It's a work in project or a work in process. What?
Work in
process.
Work in progress.
The last time I put a culvert in, we got some serious rain, and once it got high enough, it basically eroded the top, got it down to where the culvert was there, loosened up the culvert. The culvert ended up in my neighbor's yard,
and all of our rock.
All the rock and all the dirt, and now it's even wider than it was before.
And so this time, though, he put in a double culvert. So
yeah, so that way
hopefully there's more area for water flow.
But I think more to that plan is we've got to have kind of like a retention area further up and set like little basins. So there's little ponds up so that it can hold the water and still drain out slowly. But when it gets to a certain level, it'll come on down and gush to the next section, the next section. So I think every little piece.
So a project that we did here in Florida at the Florida house was we raised the broad-breasted turkeys for the very first year. Well, we
did chickens before, but
we've raised the chickens before. But the broad-breasted turkeys were a brand new animal that we raised this year, and I was really happy with that project. We only raised 2. Well, and we've raised tons of heritage turkeys, but they were always just a little bit disappointing on Thanksgiving because it looked like the turkey forgot to work out on chest day, and all they did was work out on legs. And so the broad-breasted turkeys produce a turkey that's more what we're used to from the grocery store. Unfortunately, I was sick for Thanksgiving, and so our family enjoyed our beautiful turkey without us, and we got the leftovers. But I still think the project was a huge success, and I definitely want to add broad-breasted turkeys.
I think what's neat is since you've been with me, we've had a turkey we've raised for Thanksgiving every year for the family dinner.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
I think that really brings up other questions that people need to consider is knowing. Here's the thing is, we both have jobs here in Florida, so we're utilizing our time here to experiment. And, okay, so you grow beans. If your beans don't make it, well, then you're not out. You're not going to starve. By the time we get there, it's going to matter. So we want to work out all the bugs here. Yes, climates are different,
we've done that.
but we've worked out a lot of bugs. So animals are the same way. I've experimented with multiple chickens, turkeys, ducks, pigs, all of those, and come down with specific breeds that I want, and there's reasons behind them. Like, I want the farm to work for me, not beat me up and me work for the farm only and not get much out of it.
Well, and even in the garden, the best year that we grew green beans was the year that we had the greenhouse.
Well, that and the pigs. Yeah, pigs right before.
And that year we planted 300 green bean plants, which seemed a little excessive, and honestly we're still eating the green beans. So it certainly provided enough, but we learned from that experiment that we really need to do the bulk to be able to put food up for us
and understand
to use over time.
If you're going to grow something, it's not like you could put it on the shelf. You can do a jam up crop of this year and not have to mess with it. Like if you're going to make grape jelly or strawberry jelly, okay, well then you don't really need to focus on strawberries next year. The chickens, they have their job. You don't need tons of them. Pigs, they're going to till up and fertilize the garden areas, so we can move them in there. And our whole game plan is to get up there in the summertime / going into fall. We're going to start, our intent is to kind of prepare our garden area for the following spring. So in doing that, I can set up a greenhouse, I can house the pigs in there, keep the chickens in there, just a breeding pair of the pigs, and go ahead and let them root it up, till it up. Goats won't worry about right away, but we do want to look at doing the cows as well. We have contacts that we've been coming in contact with who have this specific cow that I've been doing research on, and I think I've got her convinced now to go with this one. And she got more and more excited about that particular cow because other people, even the homesteaders, are using it as well.
Well, and the cow that he's talking about is the Dexter. Mm-hmm. And they're a little bit smaller of a breed. Not a miniature, but smaller.
It's in between. It's in between.
And we're probably looking at getting more than one cow so that we can stay and milk year round. When we went to Homesteaders of America this year, we were very impressed by, I believe it was the Doughertys, Sean and Beth Dougherty, that talked about raising fodder on the farm and eliminating the feed bill. And that has always kind of in the back of my mind not been a possibility, that you would always need grain. But they really convinced me, especially, that raising fodder is a real possibility, and it comes down to the center piece of that system is the cow, which definitely justifies our purchase of having 2 cows.
This homesteading convention turned us on to what was successful for other homesteaders, specific electric fence and how it's used, what was more beneficial to them. Instead of going a specific kind for that particular breed, some are using a universal, and it's just fine.
And to set up our farm with a permaculture basis of farming rather than create paddocks that are used indefinitely, we're going to be doing the rotational grazing and really making even our smaller piece of property work to raise our cows and other animals.
It actually gave me some more insight on the endless possibilities to apply that. I had already had in mind how to rotate the chickens and the pigs within the garden and how to rotate that because I'd been using that as was.
Move them across the whole
farm.
But
now we're moving them across the whole farm within electric fences and utilizing the cows to that benefit, and how they were doing it. It was amazing that such small areas they were using, and it's just paying attention to how the grass is growing and moving to that section, the next section, and so on and so forth.
And taking care of the land, not just depleting it.
Other things that we're doing to prepare for next year is getting other tools that are going to help us build the cabin.
And practicing using them.
And practice using that today. Was just out with my son practicing the notches that we're going to need to utilize for cutting down the timber on our property to build the cabin. I want to work out the bugs now because if there's something I need to buy it while I'm still working, because once I get up there, I won't have that income. The farm is what is going to be my job.
Well, and we did have kind of a setback this year that changed some of our projection in that Philip was in an accident and that totaled our truck. And our whole goal of waiting and living in the RV now is so that we can move to the property debt-free. So losing the truck has been very disappointing, and we're in the process of looking for a new one. So that changes things a little bit this year.
Another one, not a new one.
Well, yes. But hopefully it's not going to set us back on our timetable. And thankfully he's okay, because I certainly can't build this farm without him.
So this year we have to get started on the RV carport, the cover that we're going to put over it.
The permanent one.
The permanent one. Once that is up, which will be easier to install before we move the RV, we will then quickly hook up to the RV, tote it on up the road, put it up, then start building the deck and the enclosure outside of that. And that is going to be where we reside
until the house is built.
Until the house is built. So it needs to be comfortable, and it needs to be an increased space that we're not usually, afforded. We definitely need to make sure that the pond is continuing to progress. I do need to drain or put pipes in for overflow protection. The bathhouse completion is also another project, so that will allow other people to come on up, because we do have family members that will come up and camp. But I kind of feel bad, to come on up, they'd have to camp. So eventually we're going to have a couple cabins, but let me get done with the big one first, I think.
Well, and then also the bathhouse, we still need to complete the siding on it. He put as much of the siding up as had been milled, and we really want that finished so that it will age to a similar
evenly, right,
color, so it doesn't look different.
The other major project in order to get us out of Florida is the root cellar. That is going to take a little planning. Now that we have a road going up, now I can get a truck up there to deliver some block. My intent is to do the concrete block root cellar. I'm going to have the guy come in with the backhoe, go ahead and dig it out. I'm going to lay it out, put it together, seal it in, cover it over, and then we'll have someplace nice and cool. And it stays within the shade of the trees as well. So placement is key for everything on the farm. Garden, pond, root cellar, RV, house. In position in the RV. Why we put it there is because we're going to get the full effect of what's going to happen when the wind comes across the field to actually enter the house. So those are going to help.
And having the root cellar also means that we will have the ability to store more of our goods up in Kentucky. We still need to move our household goods and our
temperature control, but that's
the temperature
not
control things that we keep here in Florida. We've never been able to begin moving any of those things there because we can't ensure that it's stored properly.
And security too. So other things that we have to work on is we got to mark the trees. So once the root cellar's in, that's nice. But in the meantime, and it might seem like we jump around a lot, but we only have a limited time that we're up there. So you got to have multiple plans. Okay, I'm getting the look. I jump around. Squirrel.
Yes.
I jump around a lot, but I can multitask. You have to have multiple plans.
I go around chasing him to finish things.
Let me finish.
Finish it.
You got to have multiple plans ready to go, and the supplies, the tools, the time, and the know-how to do those particular plans. And then there's always going to have something. You're always going to have something else come up and change that order. So anyway, I can only do so much. Oh, I run out of parts. All right, so we did that project. That's done to the limit. Go to the next one, the next one, the next one. So we might start a little bit and then move on. So when we get back to thinking about the house, well, there's a timeline. We need to cut down the trees within a certain time of year because the sap's to the center. But yet, it's easier to strip the bark going into the spring. So I have to get up there and mark the trees. And then I got to get back up there and start cutting them down to find that window.
And these are the trees for the house.
And these are the trees for the house and other lumber that I need on the farm. There is so much planning that goes involved with the house. If you're only focused on here, you're going to miss what's going on down the road. And you're not going to be in time for it. So I've tried to be prepared for so many things that are coming up. And I jump around so much because sometimes we need to pause.
Because he likes
take a breath and go to the next project and come back to it.
Now, once the RV is moved up to the top of the hill and it's under its permanent canopy, that's when we can really start using our solar system.
Right.
So that's going to be another project that we have to assemble the solar mounts to mount the solar panels. And he also needs...
But that means milling some more wood.
You know, we were watching that video the other day. They bought a kit. That was tempting, a kit.
Yeah, but I got lumber and I have the know-how. Why spend the money there when I have to spend it in other things? So, again, placing money. We only have a limited amount.
And time is one of those things.
And time is sometimes it's a wooden rack. I can build a wooden rack. Otherwise, it's a metal rack and you got to buy it. And it's not cheap. It's not really expensive, but it's not really cheap. So, I'll build a rack. No big deal.
And he also has to assemble all the solar components.
A greenhouse to prepare us to go into next winter.
And our first greenhouse that we build up there won't be a permanent structure.
Correct.
It's going to be very similar to the greenhouse that we built at the house, made with visqueen.
Mm-hmm. Just do a high tunnel with the visqueen, the cattle panels. Mm-hmm.
And eventually we will build a permanent greenhouse.
Now that, seeing how money goes and the cabin's up and working, I wouldn't be against seeking out a reputable greenhouse company and get a greenhouse. That would really push us along and help the farm grow.
Well, and our goal is to build a geothermal greenhouse.
So, but we have a lot of plans. And once the pigs do their thing, going into next winter, we can actually cover it with silage tarps. Bring up the pigs closer to the house. by then, maybe we'll have a small little barn going, and we'll be ready for spring harvest, or not harvest, but plant. So that will be exciting. So you can't just jump right into it without studying.
Well, and we're also very close to paying off the property, which means our second biggest hurdle of moving to the property is almost complete.
Yeah, I wanted to be debt-free before we left, and a few times I've thought, you know what, I could go up there and we could manage it, but she stuck me to it, and that's fine. We'll have less stress.
We'll appreciate it later.
We'll have less stress, and a huge bonus is I thought I was going to have to turn my business over to somebody unfamily or not family-oriented, and that changed. My son is actually coming back to run the business, so now I can turn it over to him. Hence, I'll be there when he needs me, and that actually assists us in our progression in the farm. We're basically getting the farm ready to receive us.
Yes, hopefully
by next
late fall.
Late summer, early fall. I hope to be looking at
Late summer?
Late summer, early fall.
Okay. It's getting there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we want to thank you for being a part of our journey, and we appreciate every single person who has subscribed to our channel. 2022 has been a huge amount of growth on the blog and YouTube and social media side. Tremendous growth over the last year, and we are very close to our 1,000 subscribers. We need about 300 left right now. And once we reach that, that's going to allow us to begin monetizing our content on YouTube, which all of those things work towards us moving to the farm full time. So we appreciate you watching and following the journey and being a part of the Kowalski Mountain family.
So one thing I want to reiterate, and maybe we can get some feedback if anybody watches the video long enough, is what are you doing to do your part in the economy that we're in now? If you're interested in creating a plan of self-sufficiency / field to fork, hit us up for that inquiry, and maybe we can guide you with a little direction on where you should go and things to think about.
Well, thanks for watching, friends, and we will see you next time.
Done.
Done?
Okay.